Welcome back to the Con Guy Show. My name is Jim Fry, your host, and with me for today's special Easter week show is my partner in crime, Cheeseman.
Cheeseman here with theconguy.com. Excited to talk to these guys and talk about comics.
Yes, we're talking comics, but not just any comics. These are pretty cool comics. From creators Daryl Penington and Matt Baker and editor Daneil Hancock comes a story of epic proportions. Discover the strength and weakness of the mighty Samson. Divinely imbued with supernatural strength, feared by his enemies, destined to deliver his people. In his final hours, Samson reflects back on the life that he has taken. Where did it go wrong? And is there a chance of redemption? Guys, we are so excited to talk to you guys about this. Welcome to the Con Guy Show, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Right up front, though, we gotta tell everybody, this is kind of cool. Two of our guests here are coming to us from Australia. How is Australia doing right now? I hear some of you guys are getting a lot of rain.
Yeah, I think Matt got a lot more rain than we did. It's a beautiful day out here in Melbourne today. Melbourne's on the very bottom of the east coast of Australia. Mm-hmm. Where Matt is, halfway up the country, they had a lot of rain. I don't know if you have any of those photos, but Matt was showing us photos where you pretty much just had the tops of houses that almost looked like Noah all over again.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah, I live just a couple of minutes away from the Clarence River, and it just flooded pretty impressively. So people got a few days off school. Nobody lost any cattle as far as I know, so it's all good.
Good.
Yep.
And Daniel, where are you coming to us from today?
Michigan. So it actually snowed this morning. So you guys can all.
I'm sure you'll love this then.
Right. Yeah.
For those of you listening, we're waving the Ohio State cup in front of the camera right now.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Do you follow Michigan basketball at all? I hate it that they got knocked out this week.
Yep.
All right. Well, listen, we got some really cool stuff to talk about today. First, let's get to know you guys a little bit. So, Daryl, or Daz, right?
Yeah, either way.
You are a professional artist. You started as an in-betweener and later a cleanup artist at Disney Toon Studios in the early 2000s. And you worked as a storyboard artist and you worked for a number of animation studios. Tell us a little bit about that, your career.
Well, I started, I've always been drawing ever since I was a young kid. I'm just always drawing all over everything. And eventually my girlfriend, who my wife now, but my girlfriend then, she talked me into sending some of my stuff away to Disney to apply. And as luck would have it, I got through all the intake there, and that's where I met Matt. We were both in-betweeners. Started off as in-betweeners. We were there for probably about 6 years, I think it was, and then they closed the doors, and I got the love of drawing. And so we went from there, and I wanted to stay in traditional animation. They had a lot of the CG was really coming out then, and everyone was sort of moving over to CG, and I really had no interest in moving across to CG. I wanted to find something I could do where I could still use pencil and paper, just old school traditional. And so got into storyboarding, which I really loved. Just reading the scripts and putting the visuals down on paper was, I think that was one of my strengths. Which probably translates into the comic books as well. I really enjoy the staging and the posing, which I think are my strengths. After Disney shut the doors, I managed to work in Melbourne, a couple of studios in Sydney, just doing some storyboarding, working on some television shows. I did a couple of movies as well, animated, of course. And then it just seemed like every time I'd get into a studio, the doors would end up closing. Studios would go broke or whatever. I don't know. The writing was on the wall that this is sort of a dying industry here in Australia. And so from there, I kind of had to go out and get a real job. I have 4 kids and a mortgage, so I had to pay the bills. And I would draw on the side, but never really, after probably about 2011, 2012, I kind of just drew on and off, and basically for myself. I'd always had the idea of doing comic books, and Matt and I have talked about it for many years, and just never really got around to it until now. Samson.
That's cool. We're going to talk about Samson in just a second. Matt, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was born to missionary parents. Actually, my parents were missionaries in Papua New Guinea, so I've always had the Christian upbringing and been interested in the Bible from a young age. Always really loved the illustrated comic Bible that I got given as a kid. I used to wear the pages off it, reading it, and so I just loved comics all the time, just like you guys, I guess. Grew up reading comics, and to me it was always just like it was like reading a movie. Hey, like most of the time I was into the pictures more than I was into the story as a kid, and yeah, so 2001 met Daz at Disney when I started there, and then when the studio closed down, I just kind of went, I think I just want to try freelancing, so I actually tried to carve out an existence as a freelance illustrator, and for better or for worse, that's kind of what I've been doing for the last 16 years, and yeah, Daz and I actually collaborated back in 2010, I think it was, Daz.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
And yeah, on the Big Bible Challenge, we did the illustrations for that, and that ended up winning an award, and then we kind of haven't really done anything about it since then. And then last year, COVID happened, lockdown happened, and Daz and I just randomly sort of contacted each other and started talking about the good old days. And Daz was like, man, I want something to do. Let's do a Samson comic. And we sort of just went, all right, but, let's not make it silly. Let's just do 8 pages and just have fun with it. And just sort of exploded from there.
That's cool. And then I'm going to turn it over to Luke, because I know he's got some questions. But first, Daneil, you're the one who's we've been talking with you a little bit. Let's hear what's your involvement with Samson, and how'd you get involved with these guys?
Yeah, so I started out with Terminus Media just recently, this last year. I kind of got involved through another project, Dominion, Fall of the House of Saul. It's a sci-fi epic comic book series, actually, that we're putting together, and kind of stumbled my way into writing with the creator of that comic book. And so I'm working with him now on that series. And then in the meantime, I'd been stalking Matt's posts on the Samson art. He's been putting them out and just kind of admiring their progress and work, and eventually reached out and said, what are you guys doing for distribution? Can we distribute this in the United States? And I was able to connect the two here with Terminus Media to actually kind of push the book out there and get it going. So that's been really great. And then along the way, I actually kind of joined up with the team a little bit, working on the book, and kind of doing some editing and now kind of promotion for the book as well. So
nice. All right, Cheeseman.
Yeah, very cool. So I was just wondering kind of like what were kind of like the inspirations on kind of the look and the style that you wanted to do here with Samson and in the storytelling as well.
Well, the storytelling was kind of written, thousands of years ago. We just wanted to do. The reason we chose Samson in the first place was because I think we wanted to do something biblically based, and I think Samson is probably the one character, the one story that really lends itself to comic books. I think you have this guy who actually does have I'll say a superpower, by the Holy Spirit.
Like a superhero of the Bible,
yeah, like a superhero. Yep,
that's right. And as Dan, I was talking to Dan a couple of days ago, and as he mentioned, we also have like the Bond girl of the Bible in there as well. So we I think there she is.
Yeah, Lila.
We wanted somebody sexy and sinister at the same time. Yeah, I think with Samson, there's a lot of great visuals that we could come up with him beating down thousands of soldiers with the jawbone of a donkey. fighting a lion, the escapades with the Bond girl. And we just thought that I'd always thought that would be one story from the Bible that would really translate well visually into a comic book medium. I also grew up loving the movie. I don't know if you know the old 1949 Cecil B. DeMille movie with Victor and Hedy Lamarr.
Yeah.
And I've always loved that movie. However, watching it back in the last couple of years, it's very 1949. It's quite bad.
He was just sharing the trailer with us this morning, actually.
That's right.
Hey, speaking of trailers, would you mind if we showed the trailer for Samson, so give everybody kind of like an idea of what we're talking about?
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
Cheeseman, do you have it?
Yeah, let's roll this thing.
All right.
My God, how far have I fallen? How far have I wandered from the path you laid before me? Surely I was blind, long before they took my eyes.
Have a care, Nazarite. Do not be blinded by her beauty.
I am many things. Blind is not one of them.
Samson is unstoppable. He killed hundreds with nothing but a donkey's jawbone.
Is this a game to you, Samson?
I alone stand between you and the Philistine.
Let's pray they don't find a chink in your armor. Oh, mighty Samson.
If you love me, tell me the truth. What gives you such power?
The mighty Samson, killer of lions.
We must find the secret to his strength.
The mighty Samson!
Wow.
Daniel, you had a big part in putting this trailer together, right?
Yeah, it's kind of my thing. I'm not one of the artists or anything on the book, so this is my art contribution to it. It was the editing and voice casting and directing and all that. So
That's a fantastic contribution too.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Sounded like you almost got a Hemsworth in there to do the narrating there.
Yeah, he's great. Chris Ingersoll actually does the voice for Samson. Yeah, we went through a lot of auditions for those 4 lines. In fact, 6 actors auditioned for that.
That was really good.
Yeah,
and like the music and such drama. The one thing, okay, well, let's address this right up front, and then we'll just jump into the book a little bit. Is a lot of the people watching the show, they may not be as familiar with like a lot of the Bible stories that perhaps maybe me and Luke, we grew up in church, so we're very familiar with it. This is stuff that we love. But a lot of just mainstream comic book readers, they may be not less interested, but less familiar. So for people who might say, oh, that's just a Bible story, let's talk about this. What about those people? Why would they like a book like this?
I have a work colleague, and he's somewhat into pop culture, and he knows that I was doing a comic book. And I asked him, and I asked, do you know anybody, any of your friends read comics? Because I knew he somewhat. And he said, oh, look, I used to read comics, but really wouldn't read any religious ones. And I'm like, oh, really? Okay. Once Daniel released the trailer, I played him the trailer at work, and he was watching it, and I just saw his face go blank. And then at the end of it, he goes, where can I buy this?
Yep.
And then, we're in the middle of making a figure as well of Samson. And I showed him the work in progress on the figure, and he's looking at it, and he said, where can I buy this? And so I think, I don't know, I just really think if we can get it in front of people, they'll buy it, hopefully just based on the art alone. And then from there, they will, my prayer and my intention is that they will read the book, enjoy the book, and then want to know, you know, this is Bible. I never knew this was Bible. Maybe I can go into the Bible and read the actual story of Samson. Maybe from there we can encourage them to move on to John or something and you know, read about Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
The art's amazing, and just even the way, like how dynamic it looks, even just like in the trailer, just seeing that for the people listening, you got to check out the trailer because the art just is really good, and the way the panels have been broken up are done in a very creative way where like I don't know as much comics as I wish I did, but you know, like I love the way, you know, like Frank Miller and like the Sin City does very dynamic type kind of framing and stuff, and this had a lot of that dynamic framing, but you also get the color as well with this.
That's actually what attracted me to their work before I was a part of it, was you know, looking at the panels and stuff that you guys were releasing early on. I was looking at that going, man, this is, I used the word hypnotic. You know, you see Delilah's eyes, you know, you see the, you know, just the way that it's all set up, the whole lion panel, you know, where he's fighting that lion, the creativity and the angles and such. If they would make movies that way, then that's, you know, I know they're doing some of that with the superheroes these days, but some of these biblical stories could be told that way, with the kind of creative eye that we're seeing in this artwork.
Can we talk about that? What you just said, something I think a lot of people don't realize. These biblical stories, they're full of action, intrigue, like a lot of epic adventure, and a lot of sometimes even violence and gore and
seduction.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. I even noticed that on this comic book, you guys have an age appropriate listing. It's for, is it teens or older, teens and older?
Yeah.
What is that for? Why is that there?
One of the reasons we're putting it in there is just because Terminus Media is kind of going through a rebirth right now. They've been around for about 18 years.
Oh, wow.
They've done lots of different comics before my time with the company, so I can't really speak to too many of those. But when they kind of reformatted and decided what they wanted to do, and they're moving forward on a faith and family-friendly kind of basis. So they're starting new product lines, new comic book series, and the first one, the flagship, is Dominion that I mentioned earlier, the sci-fi space opera type one that we're doing, which is awesome. We can talk more about that some other time because we really should. It's very cool. But then we kind of want to draw in an audience and create a certain kind of atmosphere so that avoids, I don't know, the less appropriate or the negative type of comic books that maybe are so prevalent today, you know, with ultra violent or sexuality that's cast in maybe a kind of more of a risque, glorifying it, you know, too much. That's kind of what we're trying to avoid with Terminus. And so Samson is a little edgy for Terminus and their new product line and the new audience that we're building. But I think what Daz and Matt have done here with the book is casting it in such an excellent light. All of the things, you know, so I think we're doing a good job with how it's being depicted. But we just want to make sure that audience, you know, family friendly, and you know, moms and dads looking for books for their kids, they know that we're going to deal with sexuality and violence in this book, you know, and so it's not by any means explicit, you know, but definitely doesn't pull any punches. You know? I
don't, like, you even said, like, the first, you talked about, Delilah, and the way that she's drawn, she's very beautiful. You got my hats off to you guys as the artists, but it doesn't look like it looks like you're not holding anything back. It definitely looks like you are telling an action story that is the Bond girl, that is, she's one of the quote unquote villains of the story. Maybe I haven't read your take on it, but you know,
definitely.
Yeah. Okay, good. Definitely. I know my Bible, so I don't.
In fact, I think you guys have given her even more volition in this story too than is maybe attributed to her in most other depictions. She's more at the center of the plot. And,
I feel like in some places, sorry. I feel like in some places we maybe even did hold back more than we could have. Like, if people read our version and then they read the actual version of Samson in the Book of Judges, in the Bible, you know, there's some pretty R-rated stuff. Like,
yeah,
I'm not sure how much people realize that sometimes the Bible gets pretty hectic, you know, and so we could have even pushed it further. We could have gone R-rated with this thing without even, you know, going off script from what the Bible says. But we actually pulled it back a bit. So yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we did pull a few punches. Maybe we did pull a few punches, but it's done tastefully, you know. And so that's like when you guys are doing that, when you're holding back, it's so that it can appeal to a broad audience, you know.
Oh yeah.
You know, not glorifying things, you know, in the wrong light.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Yeah.
Right.
On the page where they're blinding Samson, spoiler alert, where they're blinding Samson. Originally, I'd drawn it from the front rather than from behind Samson, and you had the knife right in his eye and popping his eyeball out. And Matt saw it and said, "We can't do this." So we certainly have reined it in a little. Yeah, we put on steady with it for sure.
What I think is cool about it is that you guys reined it in with the artwork, but not with the story. So like you're choosing what we're like how much you're showing, how much violence, you know, how much we've reined that in, but the actual story is still being told. You know, whereas maybe you know, a little kid cartoon version is gonna like actually like erase a lot of information that needs to be there. So the target is definitely for you know, mature teens and adults for sure.
Yeah.
We're not necessarily even trying to paint Samson as a good guy. Like we're trying to show that truthfully he was a guy that was like riddled with bad decisions, and you know, sometimes just, you know, went off track and just totally followed whatever he wanted to do, you know. So we're trying to kind of be truthful to his character, and I think people will be able to relate to that, you know, whether they're religious or not. People can relate to a character that you know, everybody's looking up to do great things with their life, and but he stuffed up heaps, you know, and I think there's a story there for everyone.
That's right. When you read the actual account, there was a string of women, and a lot of the violence that ensued, he instigated. You know, he had a temper and a lust problem. You know?
Yeah, like my daughter watching over my shoulder while we were working on the trailer here. After she saw a draft of it, she goes, "Dad, who's the good guy in this?" And I said, "It's complicated, kid." You know,
that's great.
It's true.
That's great that she recognized that, especially, you know, these biblical stories, they're not all straightforward. We know ultimately what the end goal is in the story of Christ coming and redemption, but like when it comes to the story of like Samson, the story of Saul, the story of like so many of David, you know, sometimes our Sunday school versions tend to gloss over. These guys were super complicated. They were just like us, and I love the fact that Samson, like me and Luke were talking the other day about Samson, how like he's one of our favorite. We were writing something that had referenced Samson, and like, you know, if you look at today, somebody who became like a celebrity, he was big. Everybody knew Samson, and then he got canceled, so to speak, but of his own doing, you know, and it's very relevant to a lot of things that are happening today, I would say.
Yeah.
And with the story, like it seems like a lot of these people that God superly empowered to do different things they struggled with pride, and Samson struggled with pride. And then Jesus was one of the only examples of someone that came, you know, super powered to the earth and didn't ever kind of waver in that. So like, it's a good kind of through story that leads to the story of Christ and all that, and showing kind of, you know, Samson and the power that he had. But it is cool that, yeah, he's one of the only super strength ones that we get. Now, you guys, as you obviously chose this one for a reason, it's a great story. Was there any part of the Samson story in the Bible that you particularly like stuck out to you the most, that you were most looking forward to developing in this version of it?
Yeah, the redemption. Just seeing, as everybody's been explaining, the kind of guy that Samson was, very human, very fallible, riddled with lust and pride, and like I said, a bad temper. And just seeing his redemption from that, he's realized his faults, realized that he's walked away from. He was a Nazarite. He was set apart by God to lead his people, to judge his people, and as their protector as well. And he walked away from that, or failed in it anyway. And just seeing that repentance and that redemption, and God still used him to bring about the end of the Philistines. And I think just seeing that change in him, being humbled, being broken, but yet still being used by God in that state. That's what drew me. Or that's what I was looking forward to telling anyway in the art and the storytelling.
Yeah. From a purely artistic point of view, I was just really looking forward to the jawbone scene, where he just in all these Philistines. I'm like, man, how are we going to do this? How are we going to make it epic and look like something no one's ever, done before? Because, there's already comic books out there that have had a go at depicting Samson and done a pretty good job of it too. And so I think there was a challenge for us to do it in a way that no one had seen it before. And so I think the page that we actually spent the most time on was the page where he's just clouding all these Philistines with his jawbone. And we just spent ages on that page just trying to get it right. And we just had a ball with it, like just going, oh man, this is looking epic. And we were kind of exciting each other because we kept sending each other, updates of what we were doing and just going, oh dude, this is actually going to look pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And we've deliberately concealed some of these pages, even from the trailer. We're only giving little snippets. That picture that we see that you guys just threw up there of him holding the jawbone, it's actually the full page. I mean, this thing is absolutely incredible. So you got to buy the book to see all of the work that these two have put into the art. It's absolutely amazing.
I'm looking forward to seeing this. And I grew up, like I say, reading comics, and people of the show, they've heard it before. I would mow the lawn to get money for my subscriptions to my Micronauts, my Teen Titans, my Star Wars, Legion of Superheroes. But I gotta ask, did any of you guys have like comic books when you were coming of age? Yeah? Yeah,
absolutely. I think the very first comic book I can remember buying was Judge Dredd, the 2000 AD comic, the British comics. And I like Matt, it was just all about, I just flicked through just looking at the art. Didn't even really read them, I don't think, for a few years. It wasn't until I was probably in my late teens when I had a friend who had like a shelf of Marvel comics that I actually got into the X-Men. I think one of the earliest stories I read, crossovers, was probably, I don't know, the Executioner's song. Do you guys know the Executioner's song in the X-Men? It was a big crossover. Took probably about 20 books or so. And from that moment, I was
91 or something.
91, was it that? Okay. Yeah,
I was around about 1991.
Yeah, probably 90. Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah. And from that, I was just hooked. And since then, I started buying or for years anyway, every X title. And then that got me into some other things. I got into Ghost Rider, was a favorite, and all his different incarnations. And then slowly along the way, after years, I think I got all superheroed out, and I just started getting really into the Image comics because they were based more on just different storytelling,
right?
And not so much the superheroes. I think with the influx of all the superhero movies as well, kind of, I just felt really snowed under by superheroes. Even though, again, getting back to Samson, we chose one of the Bible characters that is most like a superhero. I don't know.
Yeah, he's got his Hulk moments in here. Yeah, he's got his
But
Wolverine.
I certainly, certainly grew up reading comics and still do. I mean, I don't read them as often as I do anymore. No reason for that. I think just, being a dad and having, full-time work and everything else, you just don't really have the time you once had. But still love it, obviously.
Yeah. What about you, Matt?
Oh yeah, I think probably some Superman comics and maybe some Disney comics. Like the Chip and Dale and Mickey Mouse and all that sort of stuff. Is sort of what I got started on, and then I think probably when I was I don't know, like 13, I sort of bought my first comic for myself, and started getting into the superhero stuff a bit more, and I think it was when I just saw Jim Lee's work on the X-Men back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
That I was just kind of blown away and going, whoa, people can draw like this, and that's when I kind of went, maybe I want to be a comic book artist one day, and oh man, and I just, I just sort of followed the artists back then rather than the writers, like it was only later that I kind of got more into, what the story was actually about and stuff like that. But I used to just follow the artist. And you guys ever have that experience where like the artist was having a month off or something to recuperate, and they'd have a guest artist come in or something, and they're like, oh man,
I know, I hated that.
Stories. This guy can't draw, bring back Jim Lee or something, and it kind of be ticked off that you had to waste your money on a second-rate artist that month or something. Not that they were bad, but how you felt.
Some of them were. Some of them were.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I was just all about the art back then, and then it was later on that I matured a bit that I kind of got more into stories, and a bit like what Daz was saying, more into non-superhero storytelling. Yeah. I really loved the stuff that what was it? It was called US or something like that. And Ross, what's his name? The painter.
Alex Ross.
Hey, yeah, Alex Ross painted this sort of. It was like 2 graphic novels. There was only like 2 in the series.
Wow.
And it was called US, and it was like just all about America and the downslide of America and stuff like that. And this guy that like this homeless bum that thinks he's Uncle Sam, and I think that was like one of the first non-superhero stories that I'd read that I was like, whoa. Comics can actually tell some pretty serious stuff. Yeah.
Hey, we are coming towards the end of our time together, but I do want to, real quick, Daneil, what about yourself? Were you raised in comics, and what's your interest in this?
Not really. I didn't have a lot of access to comic books. Didn't know anybody who was into them. But I came across a few here and there. Batman, Superman.
Yeah.
I was definitely running around with my underwear on the outside of my clothes. Doing the thing as a kid. But it was probably in the movies. For me. As Batman, Superman, the old ones, but definitely. It was cool for me, seeing how the Nolan movies and the Avengers series as it came out was able to tell some deeper stories. That's, I think, what really intrigued me, was to see how they were taking some things that had been depicted in a lot of ways in some campy, versions of the stories and whatnot, and really kind of mining those for some truth and some good action and drama and other things like that. And I've been able to apply some of what I've seen there with some Bible stories, in fact, through my own work. My very first play, I was a playwright for 15 years, producing my own stuff. But my very first play was based on a Jesus comic book.
Yeah.
So ironically, I'm kind of full circling here, back around to comics again. But yeah, so always loved them. Didn't get into them too much until later.
Yeah, and Luke's going to kind of take us out on a question or two, but I do have to ask you, Daneil, you're director, playwright, screenwriter, editor at Terminus Media. Can you tell us real quick, what is Terminus Media? We haven't really talked about that.
Yeah, Terminus Media, it's like it sounds, a media company. We're doing comic books, graphic novels. They've done animation, all kinds of stuff like this. They're bringing in new things. We have an audio drama that we're working on, and one that we've got on the site there. So just lots of different types of materials and things like that. Cool stuff. And so we're growing in a new direction. So Samson's really the first comic that we've brought in, that was already on its way being produced. And then, like I mentioned before, the Dominion comic, the website is terminusmedia.com. You can check it out. Great new pages, easy to use shop. We would love for you to come visit and grab some cool comics.
Yeah. And what's End of Darkness?
Oh, End of Darkness. Yeah, that's the audio drama that I produced. It's 50 voice actors, an original score, cinematic sound effects, the whole bit. It's the gospel story like you've never heard it.
Cool.
Perfect time of year. Check it out.
Yeah, cool. Jeez.
All right. Now, me and Jim were both screenwriters and very into like writing. I'm also into art school, so I'm into the art as well. But as storytellers on this, for those who have read the Samson story, like what aspects of that story did you expand on in this particular comic? And also with, the superpower that Samson had, did you kind of stick to what he had biblically, or did you take it bigger to more of like a superhero level where he's like jumping higher or doing, stuff even beyond the Bible described?
No, we kept the power of the Holy Spirit pretty much in line with the biblical account. He pushes apart the pillars and brings down the temple, defeated a lion, defeated 1,000 men with the jawbone, and that's pretty much all we really did in the comic book. Funny enough, it started out only as 8 pages, so we just did this 8-page montage pretty much. And tried to, so we had to leave a lot of stuff out. So there was plenty, like the carrying off of the gates, the city gates, and the burning down the fields with the foxes. We didn't really have room for. It wasn't until we found it hard to contain what we had within the 8 pages that we thought, we might have to add another page here just to sort of flesh this little bit out. And then once we got in touch with Daneil and the Terminus team, then we thought, we can't really publish a comic with like 12 pages, because I think at this point we had about 12, maybe 13. We'd asked Daneil, because neither Matt nor myself really fancy ourselves as writers. We're just more artists. And we asked Daneil to look over the writing and just sort of give us some tips, which he did, and rewrote some stuff, and it was fantastic. But what that involved was that we went from the 12 or 13 pages we had to I think 20 now. Which is fantastic.
We were on 16. We were on 16 at the time, and then we had to bump up.
16. Okay. But
16, yeah, so it went from 8 to 16 to 19, Matt. Is that right?
Yeah.
So it's bigger. It's bigger now.
Yeah, it was kind of piecemeal. We were kind of Frankensteining this thing together,
Yeah.
But we certainly didn't embellish, I don't think, his power. Everything that he does in the comic book, he does in the Bible. I don't think we changed. I don't think we steered too much.
What I like about the depiction of Samson here too is that the scenes that we're not covering in the book, when you go back and read the Bible, you're going to be able to map them out with our Samson in our style, right? That you'll be able to see. You'll read the story that way now, after seeing it. So all those extra scenes that aren't included in the actual pages, they'll still be kind of brought to life, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe if this goes well, we'll do a expanded edition or something. Who knows?
Yeah, that'd be good.
That'd be good.
Well, I
It
know
would have to be a prequel. We can't do a sequel. I don't want to spoil the plot, but there won't be any sequel.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Because you wonder what happened before. If he's such a legendary warrior, what young him growing up, you really could kind of expand on kind of like what he did, kind of his life and being kind of like a warrior, or even David had probably many wars he did. But sticking to the Samson, though, I'm sure he had lots of battles and fights in his life.
Right.
Yeah, I spoke with Matt as well, and Dan. We've kind of been chatting back and forth. And we thought, we've been throwing ideas around on, what do you want to do next? Do you want to keep going with this thing? And I threw up the idea that we could do another Samson, and it would have to be, obviously, a prequel. Because like I just mentioned, there's plenty of stuff we left out that we could do.
Yeah.
I'd be all for it. We've already got the character down. We've kind of built that world a little. So, yeah, and we have other ideas floating around as well, which are fantastic. So, I don't know. Hopefully we can press on with it.
Cool.
And to plug my Dominion series a little bit too, it's really cool because a lot of what we're saying applies to the writing we're doing on that when we're dealing with the David, Saul, Jonathan, all that. So all the same kind of ideas, how to approach these things is happening there too. A lot of this epic superhero moments, the David and Goliath bit, we're getting to attack those, on the whole other universe, but it's still the same ideas.
More about that, but the Dominion series, it's a little bit different in that it's not humans that are being told the story. What is it really? If you can give us a log line about that.
Yeah, sure. It's basically the story. Is inspired from the book of 1 Samuel. So you're getting Samuel, the prophet. Saul has the kingdom ripped away from him because he's disobedient to God. And then we see the fall of Saul's house. Jonathan and his daughter, the princess Michael, and that whole story kind of unfolding and David's arrival into the scene. But the whole thing is done with anthropomorphic animals in space. Star Wars meets Narnia, so it's very fantastic, and exciting. And so you got mechs and spaceships and battles, and so everything. Like we have all these. It's very still tied to the story, the biblical story, but we do go off and expand and kind of dive off of that diving board a little bit, and come up with our own ideas for that. So definitely should check that out too. It's on the website, terminusmedia.com/Dominion.
All right. Well, Daneil, Daz, Matt, thank you guys so much for talking with us today. I can't wait to get my hands on a copy of the book here. It has a style that if I were in a comic book shop, I would look at it. This is something, and I agree with you. Sometimes you get overdone on the superheroes, and you want something that feels a little bit more real, a little bit more like people, real people. And Samson was a real person. So this is a very cool. Congratulations on this, by the way. It looks great. And we can't wait to see more. So as we go,
perfect holiday gift.
What's that?
Especially for Easters and Christmases. Don't you forget perfect holiday gifts.
Right. And they can buy it on, where can people find the book right now, Daniel?
Terminusmedia.com.
Terminusmedia.com. Go there, check it out, guys. What a great gift for Easter week. All right, guys, thank you again so much, Matt, Daz, and Daniel. Is there, we'll start with Daniel. Where can people find out information about what you're working on or any upcoming projects?
Well, let's see. You can find me on Facebook. I'm on there a lot. Instagram, Daneil Hancock, 222, I think. But yeah, I'm on there. You'll find me.
All right. Matt.
My Instagram is at MattyBake or Matt Baker Fine Art. And I've got my Facebook page is M.J. Baker Art Studio. Check it out.
Fantastic. Daz?
All of Matt's social medias. I'm not really a social media kind of guy. I am on Instagram, however, but I'm not very active. It's Daryl Penington.
All right.
Yep. And you can always check out the Terminus Media social media as well. We'll be posting stuff for all of our work on there.
And we're going to be linking to it on our website as well, so everybody can get a good preview of this, and hopefully you guys will pick up a copy. Cheeseman, take us out, man.
All right. Well, you can find Cheeseman here on Cheese on Couch on both Instagram and on Twitter, and also theconguy.com. Check out our website. We have lots of other shows we've done, lots of other cool articles and opinions on pop culture and especially Comic-Con culture.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Hopefully, you never know. We'll see you at a convention sometime soon talking about the books here. All right.
Yes. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for your time.
Bye-bye.